Hello students, today's video series is based on chapter 13, Pendyke, Game Theory and Competitive Strategy. Okay, let's look at the market where there are only two firms, firm A and firm B. They are deciding whether they should undertake advertising campaigns. Okay, so to understand the final outcome of this situation, we look at the firm's positions, in respect to the other firm or the competitors' positions or potential actions. Now, firm A, if it decides to advertise and firm B also advertise, firm A stand to make 10 million profit. But if they advertise and firm B does not advertise, then they stand to make 15, which is higher, of course. On the other hand, if they don't advertise, then firm B advertise, they will make 6 million, but less than firm B. Firm B makes 8. But if firm B also do not advertise, then firm A will get 10. Now, which of these advertise or do not advertise will be the decision will be chosen by firm A. So we look at the set of outcomes, 10 and 15, is better off than this set of outcome, which is 6 and 10. So regardless of what firm B may do, whether it advertises or it does not advertise, firm A still is better off to advertise. So this is a concept of dominant strategy. Whatever the other firm is doing, I have a clear advantage of advertising. That will be firm A. Okay. Now look at firm B. Same thing, we can do the same analysis. If firm B advertise, it stands to gain 5 and 8, regardless of firm A's decision. But if it doesn't advertise, it's 0 and 2. So between these two sets of outcomes, the decision or the dominant strategy for firm B would be to advertise. So in this case, it's very clear that firm A and firm B will both advertise, and give us this outcome, which is advertise and advertise, 10 and 5. And we call that equilibrium in dominant strategies, because both firms have clear dominant strategies. Now, what if one firm does not have a dominant strategy? Look at firm A here. If it advertises, in advertising, it will earn 10 and 15. By not advertising, 6 and 20. So it doesn't look that it has a dominant strategy. Firm B, advertise 5 and 8, don't advertise 0 and 2. So the dominant strategy is in advertising. Alright, so firm B is clear that it will advertise, but firm A will only make a decision based on what it thinks firm B will do. So if it thinks firm B will follow the dominant strategy and it will advertise, therefore firm A is better off to advertise or not advertise, because firm B is going to follow this dominant strategy. So what is better for firm A to do? It will be to also advertise. Okay, so the decision here is to advertise. All right, but what's the difference between this equilibrium and the one before? In the previous case, the equilibrium were found in clear dominant strategies by both firms. Dominant strategies of both firms. In this case, the firm A is deciding based on what it thinks firm B will decide, because firm A does not have its own dominant strategy. So therefore, this equilibrium is called a Nash equilibrium. Remember, the Nash equilibrium is a company deciding to do, deciding on something based on what it thinks its competitor is doing. So it's different from dominant strategies. It's making its decision regardless of what the competitors are doing. Okay. All right. Let's look at case number 3. This is a case of two breakfast cereal companies. They want to introduce a new cereal, but that cereal could either be crispy or sweet. Okay, so if firm 1 announced that it's going to produce a crispy a crispy type of cereal, then if firm 2 also decide to produce a crispy type of cereal, then both of them will lose negative 5 million. But if firm 1 choose crispy and firm 2 choose sweet, then they will both stand to gain 10 and 10. Yeah, same thing, if firm 1 produce sweet and firm 2 produce the other type, crispy, they win. But if they produce the same type, sweet, they will both lose. Okay, so are we clear? Alright, so which the most ideal outcome is if firm 1 crispy, sweet, or sweet, crispy. Okay, and if they deviate from this or they choose a different relationship, crispy or sweet, both of them will stand to lose. So therefore we say these two are Nash equilibriums. Yeah, so you have two Nash equilibrium, and this Nash equilibrium are considered stable because any other options will be unprofitable. Okay, let's look at this case, invest and don't invest. Two firms deciding whether they should invest on a new technology, yeah, and they are aware that the other firm is also making the same decision at about the same time. So if they don't invest in this new technology, both will not make any additional profit. If firm 1 does not invest, firm 2 invest, you make 10. So let's look at a dominant strategy for firm 1. 0, negative 10, negative 120. Yeah, so does it look that they have a dominant strategy at the outset? Firm 2, 10, 0, 0, 10, 10. So it has a dominant strategy at investing. Okay, so if firm 1, now firm 1 will have to decide based on what it believes firm 2 will do. So if it believes that firm 2 will follow its dominant strategy, which is to invest, then firm 1's decision will be to invest as well, because instead of this one, it will choose this the lower right decision box, which is 20 and 30. So this will be the outcome of the company in a pure strategy, the way that we did table 13.2 just now. Okay, all right, but there is a potential scenario where firm 2 does not follow its dominant strategy, either because it's not aware that it has a dominant strategy, or for some reason it does not comply to that dominant strategy. Okay, it doesn't do what its advisors do or calculation shows. So let's say that there's a potential that it might not invest. So firm 1 is not sure whether firm 2 will invest or not invest. So in that case, firm 1 will have to adopt a Maximin strategy. Yeah, a Maximin strategy maximizes the minimum gain that can be earned. Maximin strategy, in other words, is to avoid the worst case scenario. Okay, firm 2 has a dominant strategy to invest, but at the same time, you never know, they might not invest. So as firm 1, the guy who does not have the dominant strategy, what do? So you try to avoid the worst case scenario. If they don't invest, your worst case will be negative 100. If they invest, your worst case will be, if they invest, your worst case will be -10. If they don't invest, your worst case is -100. So between the two, which do you want to avoid? You want to avoid this one. This is the worst of the worst cases. Okay, so the decision based on this Maximin strategy will be to choose the one with the minimum risk. This is what we call the Maximin equilibrium. By using the Maximin strategy, you will choose -10 and 10. Okay, so it's not because you are playing a non-cooperative game. You can't know for certain that they are aware of their dominant strategy and that they will follow the dominant strategy. So if you are risk averse, you have to consider the possibility that they will not follow that dominant strategy, and you make your best decision based on that risk. Okay. If we use a probability analysis, it will be even more clearer. If firm 1 has no dominant strategy, right? But firm 2 has a dominant strategy, but there's still a 10% chance that it doesn't follow its dominant strategy, for instance. So what is firm 1's outcome or payoff? It can get 10 or -10, but since you have this probability, then you can measure, or you can calculate the expected payoff. So 0.1, this is your P times 0, and 0.9 only of earning -10. So this will be -9. But if you do invest, then you have again 10% chance of losing that -100 plus 0.9 or 90% chance of earning that 20. So you have 8. Okay, and between the two, so for firm 1, they will choose this. So the decision for firm 1 will be to invest, because it gives them profit compared to the other option. In this scenario, which is -9, it's better to invest. Okay, let's say I change the probability to only 70%. Sorry. Where they think the possible probability now is 30-70. So you just change 0.3, 0.7, and then this one is 0.3. -7. So if the probability ratios change, you might get a different payoff. For example, in this case, the least cost or the best payoff will be -7 compared to losing -16, right? So the firm decision, the firm just now that does not have the dominant strategy, will decide to not invest. And the equilibrium will be this one. No, it's not a fixed equilibrium. Yeah, you're just choosing the decision that you will make.